Have you ever had your blood sugar go so high you lost your ability to speak? Probably not, but the man you'll hear from today had just that experience. After eating a bunch of candy, his blood sugar soared and he felt so terrible he thought he might be having a stroke. Turned out he had incredibly high glucose levels. But today, they're near normal. How in the world did he do that? Well, I am so happy to have with me today, over the phone, a wonderful man by the name of Greg Cobb. And Greg has such a powerful story to tell. Really, it's amazing. Greg, welcome to the Beat Diabetes channel.
Glad to be with you.
Oh, it's great to have you. And you know, Greg, when I was reading some of your story, as you left it in the comments, the thing that really grabbed me was your trip to the hospital and what was going on. You had a period, a moment in your life where you were so messed up, you couldn't even speak and ended up going to the hospital thinking you were having a stroke. Yes. Greg, tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Well, it was on Halloween Day, and I was eating my fill of Halloween candy and everything. And it was in the afternoon, right after lunch, and I was trying to talk to somebody, and the words wouldn't come out. I knew what I wanted to say, and it was just, and I had to sit down and started kind of uneasy, a little bit shaking and everything. I felt really stupid because I couldn't talk. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, just sit down and take it easy for a few minutes. And I did. And like 5 or 6 minutes later, I was able to kind of start to talk again and everything. And I had talked to some other employee, and they said, you might have had a mini stroke. And it didn't jive or anything. And I thought, well, something's wrong. So I am going to go to the hospital and have this checked out.
So did you call an ambulance or did you drive yourself there?
I drove myself there. Okay. Yes, I did.
And what happened when you got there? What did they do for you?
Well, I told them that I'm here because I might have had a mini stroke or something, but I don't think it was one, but something's wrong and everything because I couldn't really talk very well. And they rushed me into the ER room immediately and started checking me out and basically started to draw my blood. And about an hour later, they gave me the results on my blood sugar levels and A1Cs, and I did not like what I heard. Not at all. And the blood sugar level was over 500, and the A1C levels were 12-something. Not sure exactly what it is.
Well, that is so incredibly high. We have thousands of people watching our Beat Diabetes channel, and I would venture to say 90% of them have never gotten that high, not up to 500 and not up to a 12 A1C. Did you know at that time how serious that was?
Yeah, I knew kind of like it didn't sound good because I knew 100 or below was average and everything. And I kind of thought, no, I could never be one of those diabetics, but I knew I was very sinful by drinking a lot of pop, having a lot of Little Debbies and cookies and everything else, So I knew at that moment in time that changed my whole life just by hearing those words from the hospital. And it did.
Yeah, so your diet was a lot of sugar. You enjoyed snacks, candy, cakes, pies, Little Debbies. Yes. And then what about vegetables? Did you eat a lot of vegetables?
Yes, a lot of corn and potatoes.
But not so much the green leafy vegetables or the low-carb vegetables.
Nope, wouldn't touch them. Nope. No way.
Well, I hate to say this, Greg, but, from my perspective, it sounds like you were doing about everything wrong metabolically. and
Yes.
you paid the price for it. Now,
Yes.
I would suppose that any doctor that sees a guy come in, he's had a point where he can't even talk. His A1C is 12. His blood glucose is over 500. He would sit you down and say, sir, you have serious problems and you need to do something immediately. Is that what they told you, or what was their reaction?
No, their reaction was, well, give that man some insulin.
Give him some insulin.
Yeah, they didn't. The nurses were more concerned about having this and that instead. The dietitian would come in and she wanted to talk with me about my diet and everything like that. And I didn't really listen to her anyway, so, because I already kind of knew. Well, yeah.
What kind of things was she saying?
Well, you should eat a lot of like breads and pastas and stuff like that. The standard American diet, you know, which they were trying to push on me. In fact, that's what the cafeteria wanted to send me for my lunch, because I would put the order in and I thought, you know, I'm going to take a few less carbs in my diet today. And nope, I got snapped at. You had to have 60 grams of carbs in each meal that you got, because they were counting your carbs. Yes, and I know now 60 is just way too much. Way too much.
Well, in my thinking, that's like telling an alcoholic that you're not drinking enough. Here, have another whiskey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. One thing for sure, thank God I wasn't a drinker or nothing like that. So that's an added bonus. Yeah.
You sort of instinctively realized that the advice they were giving you was probably not so good. Is that right? And how did you come by that? How did you come to understand that?
I was watching YouTube videos, and one person in particular was Eric Berg. I was just watching health in general, and he always kept in touch with diabetes. And I thought, well, okay, this is interesting. I kind of learned about it, that he had talked about keto diet and intermittent fasting and stuff like that. And it's funny, I had talked to the dietitian about intermittent fasting, and her words out of her mouth was, oh no, nothing like that. So I kind of knew, I'm not going to take your evening classes, you know, especially paying money to listen to that stuff. No way.
She's getting a salary to tell people to eat lots of carbs and definitely don't do intermittent fasting.
Correct.
And you somehow realized that wasn't the way to go. Well, Greg,
Correct.
As you drove home from the hospital, were you depressed? Were you miserable? Were you thinking, man, I think I'm done for? Or did you have hope? What was your state of mind at that point?
Hope. I already had hope while I was lying in the bed. This isn't going to last. I knew what I was going to do, and I did it. I started on soon, a couple of days. I had to go get the food and everything at the grocery store to kind of like start experimenting with this keto type diet and everything. How does it work and everything? I started doing that from the beginning. I didn't do the fasting yet, but I did a little bit later on. I just knew, and after I started the keto diet, my insulin levels, like the amount I had to take, started drastically dropping. It was like, at least by a third within a couple of weeks, it went down quick. Then the Humalog for sure, and also the Lantus started dropping too on the amounts that I would take. I was taking probably around 48, 50 units a day.
Yeah. So you were you testing your glucose? Is that how you were kind of determining to cut back on some of your medication, or were you going to the doctor frequently?
Yeah, I was definitely checking my glucose levels, and I still do. I mean, you got to stay on top of that. And I was probably monitoring my glucose like 8-9 times a day, all the time. Now it's like 3 or 4 times a day. as far as the doctor, I had went there a couple of weeks later and was checked out and everything. And basically, they didn't run an A1C at that time. But 3 months later, I went back to the doctor, and they had checked my A1Cs then. And this time, it was a 5.3. That was a considerable drop. I didn't think it was going to be that low. I thought it'd be like a 7.2 or something like that. I would have been happy with that. But just to hear the news, 5.3 is wonderful.
Now let me ask you this. Let me make sure I got this straight. First of all, from the point where they told you you had a 12 A1C to the next A1C, which is 3 months later, is that right?
Yes.
You go from 12 to 5.2. Am I hearing you right?
5.3, yeah.
5.3.
Yeah, 5.3. Mm-hmm.
Greg, do you realize how amazing that is? Are you aware just how incredible that is?
Yeah, it hasn't ever sunk in yet. It really put me in a good mood that day hearing about that.
Well, I should think.
I did think, because at first trying to get my sugar levels down was so hard, and I figured, I'm screwing this test up in a couple of months, because the first 2, 3, 4 weeks it was just bouncing around and everything. It would get too low, go too high, and everything. It's like, and I'm amazed, and I know one thing for sure. If I can do this, and set your mind to it, everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Or at least 90% of the people, yes. Oh, I'm thanking other people like Jason Fong and everything. I mean,
right.
He just, yeah. Go ahead.
Now, were you doing intermittent fasting by this point?
After like a month into it, I started a little bit of the fasting. I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I started just a lot of 24-hour fasts is what I did. And I've only did like two-day fast. That's all I've done. And a whole lot of 24-hour fasts.
A lot of 24-hour fasts.
Yes.
So
yes.
By the end of this 3 months, when you got your 5.3, were you on medication? If so, what medications were you still on?
A little bit of insulin, just to it would kind of peak up in the mornings, kind of high, like 160, 170, and I would kind of drop it down. The doctor then said, don't take any more insulin, which I wasn't really anyways. And he gave me a prescription of some metformin to take in the evening lunches and stuff like that. Some 500 milligrams. So, yeah, I take that every now and then, like in the evening or something like that. But I'm beginning to wonder, I don't think I really need that anymore either. I should just stop taking that.
Give us an example of how your diet changed. Tell us what you might typically eat before, and then how you changed and the kind of diet you eat these days.
Well, the diet I had before was a lot of potatoes.
You love potatoes?
Yeah, I just love corn. A lot, potatoes and corn, and definitely some meat or something like that, hamburgers or something, and I always set aside something sweet. I'm going to eat something like, it was usually Little Debbie's or something. I would eat 2 or 3 of those in the night or something like that. Or I didn't overdo it, of course. I had 2 or 3 of those, or I had a bunch of cookies, didn't want to overdo a whole bunch of cookies. Just something sweet constantly, and it worked. I was just drinking, regular pop with all the fructose I wanted to drink and everything.
How many sodas would you drink each day?
Oh, 3 or 4.
Okay.
Easily.
And then
yes.
Every day you would eat some sugary snacks. Was that just in the evenings, or did you do it in the morning and lunchtime as well?
Yeah, about all day long. That was my snack, all the time. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, tell us how that has changed. What do you eat these days for meals and snacks?
Okay, basically, at lunch is with our first meal of the day. I am having boiled eggs, pickles, and a good cheddar white cheese. And in the evening, I have like hamburger, maybe a pork chop with Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, stuff like that. I would eat that. Yeah, I do have a snack. I'll eat dry roasted peanuts, so a little bit of that. But I would definitely always have my vegetables with some meat and a lot of butter on my food and everything like that. And even hot dogs, I'll eat those without the bread, of course.
And you rarely eat breakfast.
Yes, correct. I might eat breakfast tomorrow. It'll be Saturday, and just have a couple fried eggs. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have coffee with lots of heavy whipping cream. Yeah, so delicious.
Well, heavy whipping cream is my friend as well. And,
Yes.
you know, what you've described is something I've discovered a long time ago, which is that in terms of a diet that's going to really cut the carbs and get that blood sugar down, meat and vegetables are the two, low-carb vegetables, that is, are the two things to focus on. And you gravitated toward that pretty quickly.
Yes, because I knew just from watching the videos that's good for the liver. And anything that was good for the liver, I'm there. I'm doing it. And I've had people give me negative comments. You got to have your carbohydrates and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. And I'm still fine. You know,
Yeah.
I just, I don't like all those carbs now anymore at all. I don't. And if you eat so much as a piece of bread, it kind of messes me up for a couple of days.
Yeah. So you must be feeling really good about your health, your future, and where you've come from.
Yes. I'm looking forward to someday just eat a little bit of carbohydrates like potato salads and baked beans and a regular hamburger and stuff like that, and not ever to abuse this carbs ever again, because I really, to be honest about it, I do kind of miss it. But if it's keto that I have to do, by golly, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, that's something I've emphasized on some of my talks with our YouTube channel. And that is, you do what you have to do to get those glucose levels down. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is when you're bringing your glucose levels down, you're bringing your insulin levels down as well, which is another blessing, because the insulin levels, which are too high, are also doing damage. So you're getting a double blow with the high glucose. So anyway, you have made wonderful progress, and we wish you well. May God just continue to bless your efforts and give you victory in this and every other area of your life. And thanks so much for sharing your very powerful story with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I just hope, you know, I can convince one person out there.
Think of it, from an A1C of 12 to an A1C of 5.3 in 3 short months. Once again, we see the powerful and incredibly effective nature of carbohydrate restriction in radically lowering glucose levels. And I love what Greg said, if I can do it, almost anybody should be able to do it. That is so important. These people I interview are not diabetic superstars. They're not celebrities. They are ordinary people who made a major change in their diet, from a standard American diet with all its carbs to a low-carb or keto diet, focusing on a lot of meat and low-carb vegetables, and the results speak for themselves. Hope you found that helpful. If so, give it a thumbs up, and YouTube will promote the video to others and more people will be able to see it. And if you've not yet done so, consider subscribing to our channel and then click that little bell icon so you'll be notified every time we post a new video. God bless. See you again soon.